Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning in. If you've been collecting knives for a while, you've probably got a list of knives that you really enjoyed at one time that you don't particularly care for anymore. Knives you used to love, we could say. Well, I know I've got my list, and today I'm going to share with you 5 of the knives that I used to love. Let's go ahead and jump into it. These are the Kershaw Oh So Sweet. Yeah, I say these are rather than this is, because there are really kind of 2 versions of them. The initial version was released in AUS 6 steel, and it has a very different blade grind to it. It's flat ground here, and it's got a higher sort of sweep there, a grind line at the top. Whereas this version that was released maybe the next year is AUS, it's 8CR13 MOV, that's right. It looks very similar otherwise, but you can see that the grind on the blade doesn't come quite as high, and also it's hollow ground rather than flat ground. So there really are 2 versions of the Oh So Sweet. This one, again, not really available anymore. You might be able to find it here or there, but it's really just a few people that recognize the fact that there used to be 2 versions of them. And also the fact that you can see the liners, they're exposed here on this version, and they are not exposed on this one. I believe this one's also a little bit heavier. We're not going to go too far into all of that. Pretty cool knife, and I really loved it when it first came out. And this really harkens back to the beginning of my YouTube channel. I think one of the first videos I made was pointing out the difference between the one that had originally been released and the one that was subsequently released, and trying to kind of alert people to sort of the difference. Not a big deal now, in retrospect, but folks like me who are really into knives and really interested in the aesthetics of cool knives, you'll notice that stuff, and I definitely noticed it. So why don't I like the Kershaw Oh So Sweet anymore? Well, I gotta say, it still kind of holds a place in my heart as one of those that I originally and initially was really interested in. I think it was maybe 25 bucks when it first came out, and you can still get into it for really, really cheap. In fact, I post deals to this knife fairly recently on my YouTube, or not my YouTube channel, but on my Facebook page. So follow me over there if you're interested in seeing knife deals, gun deals, stuff like that. Facebook.com/TheLateBoyScout. But this was one of those ones that was, again, like I said before, really interesting to me when I first kind of got into knife collecting. And as my taste sort of grew and expanded, I really wanted better steels, more interesting knives. They don't really get that much better looking than the Oh So Sweet, in my opinion. This is one of Ken Onion's home runs, in my opinion. Just one that he really knocked it out of the park with. It looks really, really good. There are several others. In fact, I'll say almost any of the Ken Onion knives are generally really good looking aesthetically. And this one is no different. But as far as quality of workmanship, of steel, and so forth, and materials, this really just, it's kind of on the cheap end. So I kind of graduated past the Oh So Sweet, got into some nicer stuff, picked up several different versions of the Leek. Yes, that's another Kershaw, also a Ken Onion design. But there's several versions of this. This one in CPM 154 and carbon fiber, just a fantastic knife. So much better materials, better steel. Aesthetically, it's different, but also very, very cool. And there are a number of similar knives I could get into, other Kershaws and so forth that are really good looking aesthetically. Some cheaper ones, some a little more expensive and a bit more expensive yet. But I got into lots of other kind of better steels, better quality materials, and that's really the reason why I don't particularly care for the Oh So Sweet anymore. There's the Spyderco Delica in S30V, kind of a rare one. I don't really care for this guy anymore because, again, cheap materials, and yeah, I kind of prefer to have nicer stuff nowadays. And that's why I don't really carry or care for the Oh So Sweet all that much anymore. Next on the list, going from simple interest to actual issues, this guy right here, another really good looking knife. This is the Steel Will Intrigue. And I loved this knife when it first came out, used it for quite a bit, carried it quite a bit, really liked it. There's the large version of it. You can see some cool backspacers or pillars on there that are brightly colored, anodized, really, really cool. I mean, for the price, you get a lot of knife here. It's D2 steel. Chinese made, I believe, but again, you get really just a lot of metal and a lot of knife for your money, and it's pretty cool. But this knife did have some serious issues that sort of developed after my initial review, and that's why I don't carry the Intrigue at all anymore. That knife, or that issue that I found on this knife, and I've looked at all my other steel wheels trying to determine if some of them have the same issues. So far, I haven't found any others, and I've done the testing. What I found was that this thing just doesn't survive spine wax. And I don't know why I started testing it or why I started trying it, but I started looking at the lockup of the liner lock there and felt like it was a little loosey-goosey. And I did take this one apart and made some adjustments to it, so maybe it's better, but I still don't trust it. This one is still a little bit loosey-goosey and just kind of comes over to the side really easily. So that's great for as far as daily use is concerned, but as far as safety, using it safely, that's a potential issue. And again, both of these don't survive spine wax. As I would kind of whack it on the back of a table or something like that, some kind of a hard surface, and careful to, you know, keep my hand out of the way of the blade where it would travel to. I whacked that and got it to break that lock, and that became a real problem for me. I saw it happen multiple times on both knives and decided at that point, I'm just not going to carry the Intrigue anymore. They're still really cool knives, and again, I took this one apart and tried to bend that liner back a little bit, and maybe it's safer now, I don't know. It's definitely stiffer on the deployment, and maybe I could do that with the small one as well. However, yeah, I guess given those issues, given what I've seen, I don't really trust this knife anymore, and that's too bad, because again, you get a lot of knife for your money with that. I don't think that those issues, again, I tested it on a few other steel wheels, I don't think those issues are going to be present across the brand. I don't think that at all. Here's the Mini Gecko. Excellent knife, a bit heavier, a bit chunkier in your pocket, but nice back lock on it and just a really beautiful knife. Feels great in hand, feels extraordinarily nice as far as quality is concerned. N690 CO steel on it, and I believe this one's, yeah, that's an Italian made one. So great stuff from steel wheel, both in the past and in the future. In fact, I've got another one that I can't show you yet because it's kind of embargoed at the moment, but I'll try to get a video out on it as soon as I can. They make really, really interesting and really cool knives. The new locking mechanism that they came out with, again, that I'll show you shortly in a future video, very, very cool. And look at my SHOT Show 2019 video at the Steel Wheel booth. Some of those knives are becoming released very soon. So I think that there's a lot of good quality in the Steel Wheel brand. This knife series right here, however, I don't trust it anymore. Can't really recommend it, and yeah, it's one of those on my list of knives that I used to love. Next up, let's bring Kershaw back into the mix. This one, the Atmos from Kershaw, but this is based on a zero tolerance design. In fact, this one shares pretty much the exact same lines as the 0470, also a Sinkovich design from Zero Tolerance. So we're not talking about this guy in particular, we're talking about ZT knives in general. And this is going to be a painful segment to make because I've told this story to many people face to face, but I've never shared it on video, and I've avoided doing so because it's a little bit of a risk, but we're going to go into it anyway. So there's a knife retailer I work with regularly. At one point, I did a collaboration video with those guys and used one of Zero Tolerance's knives for that video. It was the 0566, one of those Hinderer designs. I was super excited about it, liked the knife a lot, but I did have a couple little complaints, some minor complaints. And that's true of almost any knife, almost anything I review. I'll look for some little complaint so that it's well balanced. You know, it's a good balanced review, and I try to identify something that could be potentially a complaint. And so what I did was, after doing their collaboration, I made my own little video, and what I said was, you know, here are my tiny little complaints on this particular knife, and then I released that video, and guess what happened after that? Man, it was a crap storm. So the folks over at Zero Tolerance apparently put some pressure on that knife retailer to pressure me to pull down my video criticizing the knife. That was just egregious, in my opinion. Absolutely wrong. Now, the folks that went through with that and actually put that pressure on me are no longer working at that knife retailer. So take that for what it's worth. There's, you know, the folks that may have done wrong in your mind or in my mind, they're not there anymore. But the fact that Zero Tolerance, the company Kershaw, Kai, would put pressure on them to put pressure on me is just a really lowball move. Man, I could not believe that they would do something like that. It's up to me, the reviewer, to say what I want to say freely, and I do that. And for them to try to manipulate the relationship and try to get me to say something or take down what I said was just horrible in my opinion. Now, I pulled down that video because I did not want that retailer to suffer any consequences for what I said. Also, I wanted to maintain a good relationship with them. So, you know, take that for what you will. Maybe I shouldn't have taken the video down. I don't know. But ever since that time, I've decided I'm not featuring any of Zero Tolerance's knives in my videos. Never, ever again. Now, I do stop by and see them at SHOT Show, so that's the exception, but that's the Kershaw booth, and we cover everything that they have there. But as far as featuring any of their knives in any of my videos, I've never once done it. The Kershaw knives I still do, because Kershaw is a little different from ZT in a sense. And also they're very affordable, very popular, and there's plenty of designs from them that I like. But as far as Zero Tolerance, the ZT branch of Kai, I don't touch any of their stuff anymore, and I won't. But you guys go ahead and chime in. Should I let that go? Should I get more into their stuff? Do you think that was wrong of them? Do you think it was wrong of me? Who do you think was at fault or whatever? I'd be happy to hear what you guys have to say. But that said, let's go ahead and move on. All right, I hate to keep the negativity rolling, but I guess since we're on that train, let's continue. Benchmade, we got to talk about Benchmade. As we're going to talk about knives I used to love. Now, I still love this guy in particular. This is the 940-2. It's a fantastic knife. It's just, you know, their best version of the 940 in my opinion, and I love it, just generally speaking. There's also the mini griptilian, classic, right? There's the standard full-size griptilian, which is also excellent. And then there is, lastly, the bug out here. We've got a bunch of other ones. I have several other Benchmades, but we're going to lay these few out on the table as we talk about what Benchmade did. So I was one of the guys that tried to look at the whole situation and get all the information before I made any kind of a rush to judgment. Maybe I did sort of the opposite of a rush to judgment and was super duper slow and methodical and careful in trying to decide what I thought about what Benchmade did. If you didn't hear the story, Benchmade, it came out in the news, and I guess what happened was, you know, I think it was the Oregon City Police Department, that's what it was, said that Benchmade helped them cut up some guns that they had confiscated that a judge had decided had to be destroyed, and Benchmade was like, yeah, you can use our facility or our equipment or whatever, and the PD decided we're going to mention the fact that Benchmade helped us. Well, that set off the whole 2A crowd and said, I can't believe Benchmade would cut up guns. Now, on its face, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I don't like it. It looks horrible. And as a business decision, they probably should never have done it. As it certainly is a PR decision, they shouldn't have done it. But I guess I can kind of see the reasons why. You know, they're trying to help out their PD and so forth. Then it came out that they had also donated to some local politicians that were very anti-gun, which made the situation look even worse than it already did. So basically, Benchmade completely stepped in it. And there were a lot of folks, 2A guys and knife enthusiasts as well, who just said, forget it, I'm not going to buy any more Benchmades, and I might even destroy the ones I have. Now, I'm not going to, again, jump completely onto that train, because I still love any good knife. But yeah, I cannot at this point, given where Benchmade stands and what they have done, it's really hard to go, yep, I'm totally behind these guys. How can you? How can you if you're into the Second Amendment, if you love your guns? And surely they do too, or at least some of the guys there do. But gosh, I mean, it was just a terrible, terrible move on their part. And then as I dug further into it, looking at Leatherman, looking at Kershaw, looking at Gerber, and whoever else was sort of part of the same political environment there in the Portland area, none of them seem to have made any such terrible steps. as far as their donations, as far as their involvement with destruction of guns or anything like that. Nobody else seems to have done anything like that. Benchmade said, yeah, sure, we'll step in that pile. And nobody else seemed to be dumb enough to do something like that. So, as much as these are great knives, it's really hard for me as a gun guy to sit here and say, yes, definitely invest in some good Benchmade knives. They're good quality, and you should absolutely own 5 or 10. How can I do that knowing what happened there? So, knives that I used to love, I have to, in general, put Benchmade on the list. All right, that one was rough, but let's end this video on a happy note. The Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Are you saying you used to love the Paramilitary 2 and you don't anymore? Not exactly, not exactly. Calm down. What I'm saying is I love the PM2. Still do. Just a beautiful knife, fantastic ergonomics, great utility. It's just excellent, really excellent. This is the S35VN version in the brown G10, as you can see there. But, yeah, there's a but. The Paramilitary 2 I thought was the perfect size, the perfect knife for EDC for a long time, until, leave it to Spyderco. The Paramilitary, or the Para 3, I didn't really call it Paramilitary, but the Para 3 came out, and I started carrying this going, that's probably a little too small. But then I kept carrying it, kept using it, take it everywhere now. This is probably my most carried knife at this point. The Para 3 has, in fact, replaced my Para 2 in daily use. So, I'm not going to say that I don't love the Para 2 anymore, but if I have to reach for one of these two, and I generally do, I've got both of them in the knife drawer, which one do I pick up? I always grab this one. Always. So as much as I like this guy, I love the Para 3. It hits all the right notes as far as the fit, as far as the way it works in my hand. The blade length is not too intimidating or unwieldy or whatever. It's just the right for every reason. Now the pocket clip was a little bit wrong, so I replaced it with this Lynch Northwest pocket clip, which is perfect. Also, I got this scale, this Putman scale. I got the pair of them actually and put them on the knife, and then realized that this pocket clip wouldn't work with that secondary scale, or aftermarket scale I should say. So I went ahead and just threw the black back on. Now I have brown and black with this sort of purpley titanium pocket clip. It's a strange kind of odd combination, but when I get it all together, it just screams me. That's Shane's knife right there, and I love it. I absolutely love it, and I carry it all the freaking time. So yeah, still love it, but kind of like used to love it because the Para 3 has taken over. That's my list, guys. 5 knives I used to love. I'd be happy to hear what knives fit the bill on your list. What are 5 knives you used to love that you don't really carry anymore, don't care for anymore for one reason or another? Tell me downstairs in the comment section. I'd like to hear all about it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm the Late Boy Scout. See you later.